existence, because the first thing is, oh, the tin would be wrong, let's kill the tin, too expensive and a bad piece of unfinished goods to carry. Kill the paper liner, we don't really need it. The packaging guys are good at packaging these things, so just do it. Kill the wacky flavors, make the mints milder because focus group testing tells us it doesn't work, make them smoother because, and the shape, it's all a bit funny. So the argument was being, you know, let's become a little more professional, and there's a good place to be said. I am doing, you know, I am in this game. I am working as best I can, and the fact that I am learning as I'm going is an argument for why I'm a strong product. And one of Steve Jobs' arguments being there that at some point, even as an amateur, we need to get product out the door. That real artists, real artisans ship the product, get the product out the door. And a similar but marginally different was the intuitive genius. You know, that the customer rarely knows that they want what they want. I have a love of the customer. I'm so close to the customer, and one that goes against the grain a little for me is the idea of rejecting market research. But then that's a red wine conversation that we could have one day about you know, what is market research. Being close to the customer, being one of your own customers, argues as being part of market research. So we're coming through to these 7 stories of authenticity. A nice way of potentially positioning oneself as a personal brand. A lot of this I've spoken about down the road of consumer goods branding, but the more I look at what's being done in consumer goods branding, the more I argue that we're all in this game. So the steps. Let's not just say it, let's show it. Big fail there for a company that simply didn't understand what it was pretending to be. How authentic can we be, calling ourselves a authentic Irish experience of nachos? Similarly, even as a personal brand, embrace the tension of we're an artisan, we are an artisan. I'm passionate, but I have a responsibility to get product out the door. You know, I'm passionate about the work I do, but as a manager for you, my job is to create revenue for you. I understand it tears me apart some days to do this, to have this working within me, but embracing the heart of that creative tension, and appearing forever timeless while offering some product leadership. So those steps. And I'm seeing that I've got close to about 5 minutes to work towards the end of this. Being close to the marketplace and the wider culture, and perhaps not spreading ourselves too thinly. One of the key branding stories that I tell about consumer goods brand is I would consider the disaster of the Fanta line extensions. I mean, what is Fanta? Fanta, designed in you know, around the Second World War, considered to often seen to be the orange drink, the key orange drink. Now that Fanta owned that position, and by extending themselves to a range of other positions, you know, were these extensions reinforcing the core brand values? So this brand curation idea, the building the history as we go along, I will cover that right away. And the idea of not being afraid of letting customers in and making the most of lucky breaks. I'd like to talk about a case study of branding, of personal branding success. A guy by the name of Greg Jericho. People may know of him, Grog's Gamut, a blogger, been writing blogs for at least 3 years, was a public servant. A big stink about September of 2010 where he was outed. He was anonymous as Grog's Gamut, outed in 2010, big stink. Continued to work in the Canberra Public Service for a while, but at that time managed to create a personal brand and a personal following that ended up serving him well. So, so a world of opportunities opened up to Greg at the moment. He's a regular blogger, writer in ABC The Drum, and I just learnt last night, recently picked up a researcher gig for The Chaser. Now we might not, none of us might consider that to be the brass ring, but for Greg Jericho, I'm considering that the type of guy that he is, I think he's pretty happy with where he's landed right now. So Greg had been posting. There's his little story. In August, he said, "Well, I'm going over to the Drum," and other news about that he's working as a researcher for the Chaser. And this is what I mean is that Greg. This goes down to 2007, 2008, and he was not afraid to put his thoughts on screen. So number one start was he started getting himself out there. Now, we are planning to run an executive briefing in the near future around the process of aligning the company's brand with your own personal brand, and I consider that's an important thing. But part of building our own personal brand is getting our story out there, and I argue to start that now. As we move through, there's this story, letting people in. You know, he loved movies and sport, so he spent some time on that, and he made the most, as I said, of lucky breaks. So Grog's outing was an unexpected turn for him, but he played on. He fed his blog and his personal brand with Twitter. We can see he's put 45,000 tweets out there. So my argument is probably couple of the tools, if one is interested in doing it, and one doesn't have to be barnstorming the stage, one doesn't need to be making a big splash or offending anybody, but you know, getting some thoughts out there is possibly the way. I've got to say, Blogger and WordPress, free platforms, no problems at all. You could start it up straight away. Now, many of us are a little apprehensive and, let's say, unimpressed by the idea of Twitter. All I can say is don't knock it until one has until you've looked at it. But feeding the blog with Twitter can be one of the ways. And I must say, look, Facebook is like the backyard. Talking to your friends over the fence, but you know, feeding that blog with Twitter and Facebook. Just quickly, it's worth keeping in mind that let's understand the competitive frame. Who else is out there playing the game with us, and what are the things that keeps me in the game? How am I similar to the other executives that are out there? Because it's important to reinforce those points of parity. What makes me similar? And of course, at the same time, arguing and making the point of what is it that makes me different. So, all that said, we've here's Cullen finding himself to the final slide and opening it up. So, we've covered 3 ways of seeing a brand and why I argue that the public and employers need us to have personal brands. And the old story, if we don't position ourselves, somebody else will position us. I'm a true believer in the authenticity. Walked through some of the stories to authenticity, and I argue that we're all a combination of these. I showed you Greg Jericho and his approach to having built a personal brand, which seems to have landed him on his feet, and a ever so brief intro to the idea of positioning. So I appreciate you giving your valuable time to us for us to discuss this, and I appreciate your attention to what we've said today. Many thanks.
Excellent, Cullen. Thank you very much for that. Obviously, a very large topic to cover in a relatively small amount of time. Can I first just thank you very much for your the effort, obviously, that went into preparing this on behalf of myself, the Executive Education Unit, and also the alumni. I know it's late, and I do understand if attendees have to head off now. But if you do have some questions, then please raise your hand via the little hand symbol up on the top sort of left there, and I'll unmute, and hopefully, all going well technology-wise, Cullen can answer your questions.